We've got some major news for Cyberpunk 2077. Starting off, for the last week, I've been doing some investigating to figure out what happened with the game, and I've made a lot of progress looking at old game footage from 2018 and before to after, and I had a major theory that I was putting together for this video. Though then I found a leak from Reddit that's being talked about all across YouTube, and at the same time being nuked from Reddit, the chans, and other places, so you can't really even find it now if you don't dig enough. I have it archived. I'm gonna read you the leak, and I think I've got a really good theory for why Cyberpunk 2077 is the way it is. Also, when you compare that old gameplay footage, they have taken out a lot of stuff, and that's exactly what the leaked dev claim says. Let's just get into this now. For those of you that don't know, this is gameplay footage from 2018, a 44-minute walkthrough. In this walkthrough, the game was almost completely put together. They even called it a gameplay demo. If we look in the very beginning, you see that the character creation is almost absolutely different from what it was. And it's pretty major because you'll see that, if I can pull it up real quick so I can narrate through while I show you, we have Samurai, under childhood hero, you got Johnny Silverhand, but also Morgan Blackhand and Saburo Arasaka. Now, what's interesting about this shows that Johnny was just going to be... this shows that Johnny was just going to be tied to one of the life paths like we have now. We have 3 life paths now, and they basically are just a couple, like an hour-long intro into the game, and then it means nothing. Well, if you look here, it looks like it would have opened up a complete arcing quest and taken you with Johnny Silverhand, Morgan Blackhand, or Arasaka for the Corpo. Therefore, it would have been like 3 different games to play, right? They've got Key Life Event, they got Y Night City. Now, all of this was put up with subject to change, and that makes sense. Though, if you look deeper in, you notice, have you ever booted up Cyberpunk 2077 to look at your skills, and you notice there's 5 skills, and then there's this missing skill. It's an empty placeholder skill. Well, that's because they scrapped an entire skill from Cyberpunk 2077. This is just comparing it to the gameplay footage. Now, I've got a lot more that I can show you, like more advanced takedowns in the game back in 2018, where now we only get like 1 boilerplate takedown depending on whether we kill them or knock them out. We've got other things like a city where the way that the cops are investigating things around the city looks like it would branch into quest lines and other things, and looks way more complicated back in 2018. Why would it be cut down, right? This is the old interface for the head, face, body, chest, the jacket, the pants, and you can see it looks like we might have had a little more complicated of a loot system, or more than this weird mod system and basic crafting system that we see now. The inspect system was even different. If you've ever gone into your inventory in Skyrim, you know that you could look at any object in your inventory. You remember that, right? It looks like we were going to be able to do that in Cyberpunk by examining the objects with our eyes, depending on the upgrade to our cyberware. You know, one thing that's disappointed me about Cyberpunk, the beginning of the game is so detailed, and like the cyberware and other things look so complete and put together, the weapons from the beginning of the game. But in Cyberpunk, if you've ever played the role-playing game, read the story, got into the backstory, you know that you can mod out your entire body, and it changes the entire way you look. You can interface in the cars you drive. You can interface with these robots that follow along with you, the tech runners, you got the net runners, and you got these, the hacking is so advanced. In fact, they show several instances of hacking that seem fully done that go in and list all the enemies in a certain gang hideout. And as you see, it looks like the gang hideouts are a lot of these skyscrapers that we don't have access to. So maybe, since they couldn't flesh that part of the game out, when a certain thing happened around 2019, they had to remove a lot of this from the game. Well, as soon as I get into this leak in just a minute, you're going to know what I'm talking about. As you see, you got access, and you can see literally every room with every squad. And when you hack, depending on your level and depending on the cyberware you have and the deck you have in your head, the hacking deck, you would have been able to do a lot. It looks like the hacking system was a super complicated kind of thing that we don't have now. And this leads me to talk about the cyberware, the Mantis Blades. The Mantis Blades from 2018 allowed you to climb walls and transverse the city exactly as they do in the Cyberpunk game, but it's been taken out for what we have now. So you could see that they had the entire history, the entire world inside this demo also, and I probably won't be playing a lot of these for you. I'm going to try to handle it in a live stream. But if you listen to what they're saying here, they tell you that it's an open world cyberpunk simulation, that they have a day-night cycle for everybody in the city. All the crowds of people operate on a day-night cycle. They go to bed, they wake up. You get what I'm saying? These things are all things that they told us that were already in the game back when we were given this demo in 2018. And at that time, they had been getting this game ready for, what, 4 or 5 years? We have like takedowns where they shoot people in the head, and depending on whether you have them underwater or not and things like that in the game back then, taken out now, and your apartment, looking out into the city, all of it just seems like they had to scrap a massive amount of this game from what we got on the release. Now, even further, there's driving and a car chase, and they say, literally, that there are random encounters in the game that'll happen when you're driving around based on who you've made angry or who you've allied with, and gangs will attack you, the cops will try to get you, maybe people will drive up to you while you're driving and you'll have an engagement with them going through the city, and they show examples of this now and everything. None of that is in the game anymore. Now, what do I think happened before I hook you up with this developer, this claimed developer leak? I think that in 2018, they had this entire game there, and they had the whole beginning of it ready enough to put out a demo. I am convinced that they wanted to make the next Skyrim, the next GTA 5, the more mature, the more adult, the more complete Cyberpunk, Skyrim, GTA 5 experience, open world Fallout kind of experience. So what happened? Well, we know what happened right after 2018. You do too if you followed development. None other than Keanu Reeves was added. So could you imagine that you've got this game done and you plan on having these different life paths, and each of them has like a different idol, one being Keanu or Johnny, one being the Black Hand guy, one being the other guy. Could you imagine if one of the execs up top said to you, hey, I want now Keanu Reeves to be with you for the whole game? Well, he's just in one of the paths. He's just in one of the quest lines. He's just in like a major part of the game, but we want him in the whole game. Well, how are we going to do that? We've already got all these other guys in there. I know. Make him in your head. Put him on a chip and put him in your head and make him kind of hang with you through the whole game. And then you could eventually get how, and this is my theory, maybe the developers, maybe the higher-ups, the dudes up top probably said things like, now we want Keanu more, we want Keanu more, and this is exactly what this dev says. Not that Keanu being implemented was a thing, but that the higher-ups upstairs were basically scrapping major parts of their game because they wanted it to focus in a different place. So they were screwing with the original thing that we were given from Cyberpunk, from CD Projekt Red, from Pondsmith, from this entire experience. Now I'm going to read to you the actual leak right now. So here we go. Alleged CDPR developer talks about the state of Cyberpunk and future plans. CDPR hurt themselves to keep investors safe and sound. Now the developers are hearing plans of a No Man's Sky style comeback due to late June of this year. Now you'd say there's not enough time for till late June. Well, there will be, because they still have a lot of the code in the game, and they tell us to check for ourselves. So there is a way to fact check this leak. I'll tell you about it in a minute. The first 2 patches should come out mid-March, despite what's been said by top execs. There'll be major departures from the studio in the coming months. Dev morale is on an all-time low, and Sony is roasting our asses due to a volume of refunds. So Sony Japan is furious. More to come in the next couple weeks. Feels terrible, man. There's no finger pointing as of now. Word on memos come from the top. The directors and senior devs are taking the flack for the team in what he'd call a, quote, honorable move. Just so you know, we still joke about a quest that got rewritten more than a dozen times because a certain top dog wasn't feeling it and ended up being cut from the final product and should come on a later DLC next year. This is literal interference from the corpos upstairs at CDPR, right? There are people that get hired for whatever reason and stay in the company due to being trusted by the top dogs. A good chunk of code is getting scrapped and rewritten from scratch. The intended game might be ready by June 2021. That's already done and ready since February. It didn't get implemented because of major UI bug that's still present in the retail copy. If you open your .dat or your data files, you will find a lot of scrapped content is still in there. Now, we can literally get coders to go in and look to see if this is true or not and kind of fact check this dev's claim. If you want a refund, ask for it. It positively impacts us devs because we warn the leads a million times about what this kind of shit. Most cosmetic overhauls should be ready by the second big June update, hopefully. The update that is due in June will sort out bugs. It says all the bugs, but the code for the PS4 and Xbox One is getting scrapped and done separately. The PS5 code is an improved PC due to the awesome dev kit Sony put together for the gen. You'd be amazed how much is already done. The quote, cut content so people finish the main quest talk was all bullshit. Yeah, it seems like they cut a lot of content because once they put in Johnny Silverhand and these other parts of the game as the focus of it, the other parts of the game probably didn't work, or, I don't know, we're just messed up, right? Anyway, most apartments with closed or locked indications used to be lootable. We've scrapped 50,000 plus lines of dialogue, and I believe the June update will bring a whole lot of cut content back to the game. Address the cut content as well. If they see that you guys are asking for shit to be put back in the game, we might actually make the game we intended to back in 2018. And if you look back at the gameplay footage in 2018, you see a different game. There used to be a huge underground part of the city that the public never got to see because it looked ugly to the execs, and it was effing awesome, and it felt like Fu Path on Vampire the Masquerade. I don't want to hate on Keanu, but effing hell, the original Johnny was way cooler and sounded like a maniac. Think Foltest on crack. I don't appreciate his acting either, but he's a nice man. Walked up to us personally to greet us on the first day and took the time to personally thank us one by one when they wrapped up recording. The word is that his fee was manageable and they needed star talent. That need came from outside CDPR. The execs complied, I guess, because who the F knows it sucks. Our original Johnny was heavily inspired by David Hayter's Solid Snake from the first Metal Gear Solid series. And believe it or not, Civilian Murphy, there is a whole AI routine with minor gang violence in those areas. The stuff you could sit back and watch unfold or directly influence. There's also a lot of drug use with kids, and eventually got cut due to inside censorship. There were priests and Hare Krishna side arcs that got cut due to censorship. Miles wrote a side quest where a Max TAC officer offed himself and you could take his place, but it created such a complex detour from everything tonally that it got cut out as well. So you could see why they cut things out of the game. It's just nuts to do that. I hope it comes back. It felt amazing to get into their headquarters and hack stuff. You'd see the police trying to operate, break down mid-arrest due to your shenanigans. It might sound weird, but the disaster launch was actually something beneficial from our perspective. A cold shower sets priorities straight, so we're able to resume work on what was originally intended without having those effers breathing down our necks to publish. See, they were trying to get them to cut things down if it needed more work so they could get it published. I believe it was due to miscommunication that the leads not setting goals that they should. The game was jumbled together for 2019's E3. The last dev comp before the scrap was 160 gigs alone. There should be some whistleblowing in the coming weeks if the step downs. I think that means if someone steps down or if someone doesn't, there's going to be more whistleblowing. I don't know. Series X was a mere rewrite of code and load orders. Next-gen architecture is actually very good for ports. Company policy to release when a game runs without debug hitches, and the reason why it did baffles me and is the reason why I started the thread. It's a mix of hubris and deep incompetence from some big names around here. I'm going home for the holidays and really think about my friends who will be in the office for the next couple months redoing scrap work without being able to say, I effing told you so. This is your fault, boss. Next E3 will be bizarre for CDPR, I bet. We've scrapped 2 whole arcs because the mission cleaned a save due to a bug with character placement. We've also scrapped a big portion of the underground and sewers because of bugs. Night City had 3 different types of cab besides Vileford, and drivers would hold whole conversations and give quests. That all had to be scrapped. Police pathfinding script worked wonderfully until somebody screwed the pooch. All I know is it's already being fixed. It was a major oversight, of course. Morgan Blackhand's backstory and a nod to the corporate wars. The DLCs will add a lot of the crazy and cool ideas Mike gave us when we began briefing the project. You guys should have a complete game by the end of the year if everything goes well. I really gotta go now. Take care. Everywhere I try to find this, it's been taken down. It's been like nuked. So it really makes me think that either 1, it's real and it's getting nuked because of that, or 2, it's not real and somebody removed it because people started taking it seriously. Either way, though, with the original footage that I was showing you from that gameplay, 46-minute gameplay walkthrough in 2018, it does tell us, it does show us, it gives us this thing that there was so much more in the game. It was about an open world cyberpunk reality that we got to get into and experience so that the game became our choice, just like Skyrim. Yeah, there's a complete main story arc, but you get to play that game however you want and be whatever you want, even evil, even a villain if you want while you do it, right? Cyberpunk doesn't even have that much. Look, my biggest gripes, they don't have a lot of cyberware. The cyberware doesn't change your looks that much. It doesn't do what it's supposed to do. You can't interface with cars. You can't fly in cars. You can't go and fight people with mechs. You should be able to have your own mech in the game at endgame. You should have a bunch of bots that fly around and help you in the game. This is just all lost potential. And yes, in the cyberpunk world, this stuff exists. Why isn't it there? On top of that, they got these different types of, you got a wrist launcher and you got mantis blades. There should be so many different types of cyberware implants that it should take 10, 20, 30 hours just to go through it, explore it all, and choose what you want to have. It's just insane, the wasted potential of Cyberpunk. But I will say this. We've seen this happen before. I was around when Grand Theft Auto 3 launched. Well, 2 and 1 too, but I'm just saying. When 3 launched, it was the first 3D, like, open world type thing like that a lot of people got to experience on a console, right? Well, when Vice City came out, it was a whole new thing. When San Andreas came out, it added so many new things, and it just kept getting added to and added to and added to. The one good thing I'll say is they got a really good base to work with in Cyberpunk. And I do think they'll fix this game up and it'll be good. But I think Cyberpunk 2 will give us what we thought we were getting with Cyberpunk 1. I think that it took this kerfluffle to get CDPR to be able to take control back from the execs and say, look, you either let us make this game or it's going to suck. And I do think that after they learn those lessons, CDPR is going to come out and put out a badass cyberpunk open world simulator like we want. I would love, you know what? Even if I could go back and have like GTA 4 graphics, I would just like a cyberpunk open world game that focused on all the gameplay and all the cool things that we want, right? Either way, thanks for watching. I'm UNIRock, hosted on my gaming channel, rockAlot. If you like what you see, or if you want to hang around, subscribe, hit the like, hit the share, or not. Leave me a comment if you want to, or not if you don't, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace. I'm out.